Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MtG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Construct Tribal for Dominaria Standard. It's going to be a big go wide list, playing value cards turn over turn until your opponent concedes. And of course, you know we got Traxos in here from Dominaria in this list, of course. But before I get into it, make sure to like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have new videos and new deck techs every single day during the weekday. But enough hashtag ad. Let's jump right into the creatures, guys. We've got 4 Burmat Courier, 4 Metallic Mimic, 4 Scrap Heap Scrounger, 4 Chief of the Foundry, 4 Foundry Inspector, 2 Scrap Trawler, and 4 Traxos Scourge of Krug. A lot of really powerful artifacts and also constructs in the list here, except of course from the Metallic Mimic once it's cast. Courier here for us, just giving us great value of being able to draw some cards in the mid to late game, as well as being a great turn 1 attacker. Just amazing for us. Of course, it's a 1 mana, 1/1 with haste. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. You can pay 1, discard your hand, sacrifice Burmat Courier, put all cards exiled the Courier into their owner's hands. So again, turn 1 play, we play this, we play out the rest of our cards for the next 3 turns. We probably won't have a hand. We're going to sacrifice the Courier and refill our hand for more stuff. Moving up here, the Metallic Mimic is just a fantastic card for us to be able to make our board state a little bit more impactful. A 2 mana 2/1, or it can just be a way for us to just have a removal target on turn 2, kind of have our opponent burn removal on it because they don't like it. As they enter the battlefield, choose a creature type. We're going to say Construct. Metallic Mimic is a chosen type in addition to its other type, so it's a Construct shapeshifter basically. And each other creature you control of the chosen type entering the battlefield enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So after turn 1, Courier can come in as a 2/2 with haste for 1, still very, very good. And we have Scrap Heap Scrounger here coming in maybe as a 4/3 for 2. That's amazing as well. A 2 mana 3/2. Can't block, so that is the downside of the Scrounger, but is attacking in for 3 points of damage. We can also pay 1 colorless and 1 black, exile another creature card from your graveyard, return Scrap Heap Scrounger from your graveyard to the battlefield. So very good for us if we have a lot of removal coming our way, or we're trying to kind of attack in as much as we possibly can, and we're trying to represent trades against our opponent. Something that makes all of those creatures larger, though, is Chief of the Foundry, a 3 mana 2/3. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Chief of the Foundry also stacks onto himself, so he's a real threat once there's multiples of him on the battlefield. Opponent will likely want to burn removal on it, Vraska's Contempts, Lightning Strikes, things like that. If there are 2 Chief of the Foundries, though, this guy is a 3/4. That's a lot of power and toughness right there for just 3 mana for us. And of course, a board-wide punt. Another card that makes our board a lot cheaper as well is Foundry Inspector, a 3 mana 3/2. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. So everything in this list here, 1 less to cast. It's amazing. And also, the Courier is free at that point because it's just 1 colorless. Super good. Again, it's a 3/2 as well, so it's attacking in with the same amount of power as Scrap Heap Scrounger. And Chief of the Foundry makes it a 4/3 as well. Another card that's good for us that's a little different is the Scrap Trawler here, a 3 mana 3/2. Again, that 3/2, very, very good for us. Whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. So if a Traxos, a Chief of the Foundry, a Foundry Spectre, or a Scrap Trawler goes to the graveyard, we actually get to have our choice between the Scrappy Scrounger, Metallic Mimic, and Burmat Courier, if they're in the graveyard, to bring them back into our hand. Very, very nice for us. And of course, our top end bomb for us is Traxos Scourge of Krug. We played this in a previous build with the Simic artifact list. This card is ridiculous, a 4 mana 7/7 with trample. It enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step. That's kind of sad. However, this is a Construct Tribal deck, so we have plenty of artifacts to make sure that Traxos is untapped here. Whenever you cast a historic spell, untap Traxos. And then his artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So all the artifacts we have in our deck list, we're going to make sure we cast them, untapping Traxos and attacking out with him. The best situation I've come into with like the interaction with the deck here is have a Courier on turn 1, attack in 2 or 3 times, build up some cards into the Courier, play out your entire hand, including Traxos, and then sacrifice the Courier, get your hand full of cards again, play out another artifact that Courier grabbed with its ability. Traxos is our game ender, and it's also an 8/8 with trample if we have a Chief of the Foundry on the battlefield. It can also be 3 mana if we have a Foundry Inspector as well. So it's still going to be a turn 4 play for us since Foundry Inspector is a 3 mana cost creature, but being able to play Traxos, maybe even untapping in the turn it's played with a Courier or another creature, is very good too. So that's it for creatures there. Let's move on to our spells here. We have Abrade, Unlicensed Disintegration, Vraska's Contempt, and Vanquisher's Banner. There was actually a more Fatal Push in here instead of the Vanquisher's Banner, but because we have the Foundry Inspectors, I felt like it was a nice inclusion to put in here for a tribal list. Abrade, of course, dealing 3 damage to target creature, or just destroying target artifact, so God-Pharaoh's Gift is actually a huge threat right now, so we want to make sure we deal with the Goblin God-Pharaoh's Gift, the Gruul God-Pharaoh's Gift, we actually played yesterday on the stream, and of course, just the basic blue-white God-Pharaoh's Gift. Want to get those out of the way for us. Unlicensed Disintegration here being a great removal spell. We destroy target creature, and if we control an artifact, we deal an additional 3 points of damage to an opponent's face. So this is very good for 3 mana, and we have a lot of artifacts on the field to make sure we actually do that extra 3 points of damage. Vraska's Contempt here is great for the Teferis, for the Karns, all the Planeswalkers in the format right now. A 4-mana instant to exile target creature or Planeswalker, you gain 2 life. The life gain is just kind of ancillary to us. We really want to just get rid of those Planeswalkers off the battlefield. And of course, Vanquisher's Banner is here, a 5-mana artifact. As it enters a battlefield, choose a creature type. We're going to say Construct, and creatures of the chosen type can get +1/+1, which is already great. So basically, Chief of the Foundry for 5. That's not really the goal of this card, though. Whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. The only downside here is, of course, and I feel like we had this on a previous deck that we did, is that Metallic Mimic is not a construct when you cast it, so it's the only card that gets the downside where you don't get the actual card draw from it. Everything else in the deck, though, if you cast it, you're going to draw a card if the banner is on the battlefield. That's very, very good for us, giving us a lot of good card advantage. But that's it for all the spells in the deck. Let's go to the land base here, starting with 3 Mountain, 3 Swamp, 2 Field of Ruin, 4 Spire of Industry, 2 Scavenger Grounds, 2 Inventor's Fair, 4 Canyon Slough, and 4 Dragon Skull Summit. Lots of stuff here for the land base. And reason being is because this is a artifact deck, so we can kind of do whatever we want with the land base and make sure we can kind of play as many things as we want to do. So like Field of Ruin and Scrapheap Scrounger, especially being our kind of like tech cards for Graveyard Hate, as well as just any kind of Flip Legion's Landing or Escanta Hate. Spire of Industry giving us the ability to tap for any color mana. If we have an artifact on the battlefield, we just pay 1 life and get any color of mana if we want. Inventor's Fair giving us some side life gain if we have 3 or more artifacts on the battlefield, so very good as well. We can also pay for if we have 3 artifacts on the battlefield and search for an artifact in our deck, which is very nice. So if we have a Traxos we need to get into, Inventor's Fair is going to help us do that. And Canyon Slough can be a great cycling card for us, tapping for black or red, but it's also coming in tapped on turn 1 and maybe even giving us the ability to have an untapped Dragon Skull Summit on turn 2. So lots of really nice synergies here for us in the land base, even though it is kind of complicated overall. But that's it for the Game 1 game plan. Let's go to the actual sideboard here and see what we can do in Game 2. Primarily, we're going to have Duress, Fatal Push, Magma Spray, Lightning Strike, Doomfall, and Lost Legacy. Duress here for those control lists, of course, and the approach list. That's going to be one of the main decks that we keep running into in the actual testing area. Duress is coming in for that. A 1-mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, and that player discards that card. So if it's an approach, if it's a Vraska's Contempt, if it's a removal spell or a counter spell, we're going to use Duress and get it on turn 1. Next up, we have Fatal Push here, and this is for the other like tribal decks out there. This is for a more aggressive deck like a mono red aggro, or even a goblin aggro deck. Whatever we want to do, it's going to kill those. A 1-mana instant, destroy target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less, then revolt, destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less instead of a opponent you controlled left the battlefield this turn. More often than not, we're just going to get the 1 ability there. Revolt trigger there is a little bit more difficult for us, but still very, very good. For the Eternalized and God-Pharaoh's Gift strategies, we have Magma Spray here to represent that. A 1-mana instant, deals 2 damage to that creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So if a creature like wants to block, say, Traxos, we could probably ping it down like a Scarab God, and then, you know, just pile through it, and if it dies, it does get exiled too, so that's a really nice way to kind of stack that too. Lightning Strike is also here because a lot of 3 toughness creatures are kind of rummaging about in the standard format, as well as we wanted to maybe do some damage to our opponent's face. Lightning Strike is going to help us do that. A 2-mana instant, dealing 3 damage to target creature or player, or Planeswalker, which is very nice too. And of course, we have 2 Doomfall here for some extra kind of hand hate as well as exile hate. Target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls, or target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it, exile that card. That includes creatures or non-creatures. So if an opponent does have a large bomb in their hand, we get to use Doomfall and grab it. And the last 2 cards in here are for that Approach to the Second Sun strategy. Once again, we have 2 Lost Legacy. A 3-mana sorcery, name a non-artifact, non-land card, search target player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of the cards of the same name, and exile them. The player shuffles his or her library, then draws a card equal to each card exiled from their hand this way. Now keep in mind, if we're up against the Esper approach lists, we will probably want to go Lost Legacy on Mastermind's Acquisition, as well as Lost Legacy onto Approach of the Second Sun. They're probably going to have both in their deck, or some variation of that, because Lost Legacy is a card that lots of people are putting into their sideboard for that very matchup. So we do want to be very, very aware of that particular matchup there. But that is the full deck list there on the sideboard. Let's go to the full layout here on MtG Traders. It's coming to about 81 tickets, and if you were to build this in paper, it's coming to about 161 bucks. The most expensive cards online are the Beaumont Courier, the Metallic Mimic, and actually the Scavenger Grounds and Spire of Industry in the land base. Vraska's Contempt is also a few bucks as well. If you're wanting to build this in paper, the most expensive cards, of course, are Metallic Mimic, Vraska's Contempt, Dragon Skull Summit, and Canyon Slough, and of course the Fatal Pushes and the sideboard there being 14 bucks overall. It is sort of crazy how the online to paper prices kind of fluctuate depending on stock, for sure. But that is the full 75. That is the full deck list. Let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you have any suggestions for it? Please let me know in the comments down below. Would love to hear your responses on it. Construct Tribal is super real, and I feel like you can probably build it in Rakdos, which is what we did today. I feel like Seth did a blue-black version as well, Saffron Olive. If you want to check out his list, there are a ton of different ways you can build this deck because, of course, it is an artifact list, so you can basically build it however you want to. But for me, I do like having the Unlicensed Disintegration in the main board there. Just great removal with being a 3-point life pinger to an opponent's face. But that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. Like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next week. And if you don't know by now, I actually stream on Twitch, by the way, twitch.tv/SuperHinotama, that's my username. And yeah, check me out on every weekday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right there on the Twitch channel. I always put it in the comments down below the video, but just in case you guys don't know, I'm putting it in the video as well. But that's it for the video, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.